call the regular meeting of the Menifee City Council to order. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on closed session items tonight?
There are no requests to speak, Your Honor.
Very well, we are recessed to closed session. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are reconvened from closed session. Mr. Melching, do we have a report out tonight?
Yes, Your Honor. We have one report out. With respect to the Eastvale matter on the closed session agenda, the City Council has provided authorization to continue pursuing the appeal proceedings on that matter, technically a writ of supersedeas brought by the City of Eastvale. We're in a defensive posture, but we have that authorization.
Very well, sir. Thank you kindly.
No other reportable action.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Denver. Here. Councilmember Leesmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Sobek.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem August. Here. And Mayor Mann.
Here.
5 present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We have words of inspiration tonight by Pastor Troy Ulmer, First Baptist Church. Pastor?
Well, once again, thanks for having me here, and let's have a word of prayer. Father, I pray for these council members. Thank you for raising them up to serve in this community and being leaders and examples. Keep them safe, watch over their family and loved ones. Lord, I pray for our community as well. Pray for those that are first responders. The weather conditions are rough right now. Keep them safe on the roads and as they respond to calls that come their way. Lord, I just thank you for our community and our people that live in it. Continue to ask a special blessing on them and this meeting tonight. We pray this all in your son's name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Sobek, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cub Scout in me. Ready, begin is the Cub Scout leader in me.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any modifications to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Your Honor. There is one small modification to the agenda, item 10.3. Although the staff report and the agenda are correct on the face of the agenda, it should read in the amount not to exceed $70,000. And that is all.
Very well, thank you. The agenda is approved as noted and modified. And we have no presentations for this evening. Madam Clerk, would you call the first public commenter?
Yes, first up is Wendy Blackburn, followed by Anthony Rodriguez.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the council and mayor. I'm the owner of Wendy's Taxi, a taxi company that started roughly about 3 years ago here in the town. Since then, business was great. However, I've had a little bit of an issue with one of the other types of transportation companies, which is considered to be the Uber, Lyft, and transportation companies that are listed under technology. These type of drivers don't have to abide by the same rules that we do, such as the high amount of insurance required to cover city business licenses, taxi meters, a whole broad of other things. It's just a regular person getting into a car, signing onto their phone, and acting as a taxi company, even though their company is registered as a technology company. I'm hoping to bring this to your guys' attention to see if maybe we can kind of level the playing field, as opposed to just having the taxi drivers have to go through all these different regulations every year, bringing the Uber drivers in and having them do the same things. Their cars aren't regulated like the taxi drivers are. We have to come through every April, come right around the corner. We have to have our meters measured just the same as the paramedics do and the fire engines and city vehicles. Our maintenances have to be up. It's just posed a lot of problems for me and my company to where the point where I'm almost at the point where I can't sustain the business anymore. It's gotten to the point where on the point of this week trying to debate whether I should renew my business licenses or just completely shut my business because I can't sustain it any longer.
Okay, thank you very much. What's the name of your taxi company? I didn't quite hear when you started out.
Sorry, I'm a little on the nervous side.
No,
It's
yeah.
Wendy's Taxi.
Wendy's Taxi? Okay. And what's the name? I don't see Uber being active in the city of Menifee right now.
If you do
Well,
check
there.
your phone, and I can pull it up.
Yeah, I'm
ever
looking at it right
since
now. I see no Uber hits on my to City Hall right now, so
I have been watching it since New Year's Eve, and on average,
it must be new.
No, there's been about 8 cars on the road between times. Right now, because of the rains and the floods, nobody is going to go anywhere. But on a regular day, like let's say the day after New Year's Eve, there was 8 Uber cars, 3 Lyft cars. I have started stalking this app like, oh my God, you have no idea.
My
My
next door neighbor's
stepdad
an
will
Uber
come
driver.
running in and be like, how many cars are in town? Why isn't your phone ringing? And I'll pull it up and you can't find anything. You can go from a small car to a big car, and within 3 minutes, I just live right over here on the other side of Salt Creek. Right, I mean, instantly.
Yeah, I sit corrected. There's 2 beeping me right now, so I appreciate, I understand what you're saying. This was an issue, and we can't respond in great detail right now because this is public comment and this issue is not agendized. But your complaint has been heard, and I know that this was an issue at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the last 2 conferences, because the conference used Uber drivers, and the city taxi drivers were very upset, and we're talking about San Francisco, so there were a lot of them. Understand the issue. We can't do anything about it tonight, but your concern has been heard, and just keep us informed of how that progresses. But do not renew your business license. We need your business.
It's gotten to the point where I have no business left.
How much is your business license?
$35.
Okay, for a year.
That's for the year, but when you look at that, also the taxi meter was due. The taxi insurances, my premiums are all due. I'm looking at close to spending $3,000 this month, where I haven't made that in the last 6 months.
Understand, but in terms of the city's impact on your business, it's $35 a year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Next speaker, please.
Next is Anthony Rodriguez, followed by Katie Manier.
Thanks for having me. Just to echo what Wendy's saying, I'm the co-owner of Menifee Taxi Company. Aisha's, my girlfriend, is the other co-owner. And just to echo, just to break it down, really what she's going down is about the requirements the city requires me to have to be on the streets here. When I opened up my business a year ago, I was required to go to Weights and Measures, get my car weighted. I was required to have commercial insurance, commercial tax. My insurance on each of my cars, I have 2 cars, is $350 a month for 2 cars, each car. So what we're saying is, let's level the playing field. Competition is good, but the requirements should be the same for everybody across the board. The business license is really not the issue, it's the laws that the city's allowing them to get on here and not being able to, to be able to do business with. Like, I'm required to have signage on my car. I'm supposed to post my fees on my car for customers to see before they get in my car. Uber is not required to do that. If I get pulled over by a police officer and I don't have none, he's going to say, well, why are you operating as a cab? You're actually illegal. So all we're saying is, let's level the playing field with the requirements across the board and say, okay, if you're going to do business in Menifee and you're a cab driver, put stickers on your car, put your rates on your car to let people know that who you are. I have to do that. I have to pay all the fees and all the requirements. And right now, and they don't even have the commercial insurance that I am required to have. And I only really have $300,000, which some cities require $1 million, and look at what I'm paying. So we're just saying, let's level the playing field for everybody. That's all we're saying. Competition is good because we're a growing city. We love it here, and I'm not leaving, but we just want the city to know that it should be a level playing field. That's all. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Katie Manier, followed by Jeremy Hutman.
Good evening. Tonight, I just have kind of a request. I'm going to ask if we can look at having more stop signs not stop signs, I'm sorry, speed limit signs on Antelope between the Ralph's Market Shopping Center and past the college. People there think it's a speed race way. I had a gentleman one night almost pushing me, flashing his lights, going like that at me, 55, 55. I'm doing 40, which is the speed limit. And the guy went around me on the wrong side of the road, put people's lives in danger. And there's, I believe, only one stop sign or one speed limit sign on Antelope in that area to show it's 40. And coming the other way, there are several, but going, south, I think there's only one. I think we need several in front of the college. And in that strip, that's only 40. And I know when Raphael was here, I'd even talked to him about the concept. If you're coming north on Antelope, before Holland, it's 55. And after, it's 55 from like Scott Road on down to Holland, it's 55. And then it just drops to 40. And that's quite a difference. It seems like to me it should graduate down, maybe at Craig, maybe go to 50 and then down or something, because people are still doing 55 and 60 in front of the college, which is dangerous. And there's no stop coming out of the college for people. So they don't tend to, stop. And anyway, that's my spiel tonight on that. Then I have another issue because I believe it was New Year's Day or the day after, there was dumping of dirt on a lot in a little private community off of Murrieta Road. I don't know the name of that housing development. A couple of city council members were informed of it and know about it. The police were informed of it. They came out, said they couldn't do anything because they didn't know the truck name, even though it was videoed and the lady was there with the video. They didn't see it dumped and they couldn't do anything. So now here's this pile of dirt, unknown dirt from who knows where, and they'll eventually build on that lot probably, and there'll be no testing, no nothing done. And this is an unknown quantity of dirt. And there were like 5 truckloads dumped there. So that's an issue for me, and it needs to be investigated. And I asked 2 council members to investigate it, and nobody got back with me, so I'm assuming nothing was done.
Thank
Check
you.
your email.
Mr. Johnson, could we ask Public Works to at least look at the, if the traffic survey that we did last year addressed the speed limits and the signage on Antelope Road?
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jeremy Hutman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Is this better? My name is Jeremy Hutman. I'm with the California First Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE financing program. We provide financing for energy and water saving measures on homes and businesses. California First is sponsored by the League of California Cities, and we're very similar to the HERO program that's currently available in the city. A few months ago, I was here to introduce the program, and since then, there's been several very exciting developments with PACE programs. There's a definite trend throughout the state and the county towards competition when it comes to PACE. When there's multiple PACE programs operating in a community, it forces PACE providers to compete for business, and the way we do that is by improving our services and reducing our interest rates, and that ultimately benefits property owners, homeowners, and business owners. So we're very interested in offering our service here in the city. The exciting development is that in December, the County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to enable PACE competition throughout the county and all of the unincorporated areas. And now cities are starting to follow suit. Just last night, the city of Moreno Valley voted to enable PACE competition in the city. So now all of their property owners have choices when it comes to choosing PACE programs. California First, we're currently available in 320 communities in 39 counties, and in almost all of those, we're operating side by side with the HERO program. We've helped over 5,000 property owners upgrade their homes, and we have the highest level of consumer protections in the state. We actually have the same policy that WRCOG just adopted for the HERO program. So for the city to make the program available, the step you would need to take is to pass a resolution, and then at that point, the program would be available to property owners if they choose to use the program. It's free to the city, there's no cost, and because you're already a member of the sponsoring organization, the League of California Cities, there's no new joint powers authority or new organization to join. So it's a very simple process, and you would be enabling your property owners to have choices when it comes to PACE financing. There's a significant amount of demand, especially for contractors and property owners. And we have a petition that was signed by about 40 contractors that do business in the city. And what they've asked is being able to give our customers choices is better for our business and better for the community. They've asked to please vote to bring PACE competition to the city. So I have a copy of the petition and a copy of our consumer protection document that I'd like to submit. Thank you very much for your time, and we really look forward to offering another PACE choice for property owners here.
Thank you. Just go ahead and give it to the city clerk. Do you need the original or a copy? Ms.
The
Manuel?
copy is fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, Your Honor.
Thank you kindly. Okay, on to council member updates and comments. Do we have any tonight? Since the holidays have passed and we're into the new year. Who's
Yeah.
up? Anybody got an update from a regional board or commission or something else?
I have a few comments.
Very well. You're up. You have the floor, Ms. Sobek.
Okay. I just, I attended on December 19th, the Spark of Love Santa's workshop with a few of the other council members. And it was in Councilmember Leesmeyer's district, but and he might be sharing some things about it tonight, but I just wanted to thank all those organizations. And Debbie Mannion of the Lake Menifee Women's Club has been doing this for years, and it was just an outstanding event for those in our community who could use a helping hand during the holidays. A lot of volunteers out there from a lot of different organizations. Santa and Mrs. Claus that are connected pretty closely to our city council were there. And, you know, it was just a lot of nice smiling faces and a lot of children that were made happy. And I just wanted to thank all those involved. The day after Christmas in the 3rd District, you might have seen it on some of our social media, there was a house fire in the 3rd District. And one of the neighbors kind of reached out to me a little bit, and there was a little boy of 5 years old and a little girl 1 year old in the family that didn't get any of their clothes out of the house or any of their Christmas toys. And so a few phone calls were made, and again, the Women's Club stepped up, neighbors stepped up, Target, and the community came together and helped this family out. So we just got a great community here, wonderful people, and it was just a spirit of still giving for the holidays, and it was nice to meet that couple. Last night I was invited to go and speak to a Weeblos scout troop about city government, so that was a fun little experience to do that, to meet with those little Cub Scouts. Reminded me of the days when I was a den leader. And then just last, on the earthquake this morning, that was centered in Banning, it made me think, in our family for years, January has been emergency preparedness review month in our family, especially when our kids were little. And as adults, with our kids gone, my husband and I, we check our water, we check our 72-hour kits, we check our car kits. It's just January's the month we do that. And so I just wanted to encourage us as council members and maybe our community that this is a good time. We've been reminded with the weather. We've been reminded with that earthquake this morning. And our city has some great programs. And one of them is called CERT. I have a flyer right here. Community Emergency Response Team. In case of a disaster and you wanted to volunteer, you wouldn't be able to volunteer unless you were CERT trained. And it would be great to have every neighborhood, if you have a neighborhood watch program, or if you have that somebody is CERT trained. And our first training, they do it 4 times a year with CAL FIRE. Our first one is coming up the end of February, and it's a 20-hour course. I would encourage you to look into it, and the flyers are usually on the counter here at City Hall. But as council people, I've been talking to people around the community about CERT. A lot of people don't know about it, and it's just a good program that we have and that we need to take advantage of. So that's my report tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Sobek. Mr. Leesmeyer?
Yeah, I would just echo Ms. Sobek's comments about the Spark Love Toy Drive. There were a lot of kids out there. I think there were, over 800 kids. And I've always heard a lot about it, and coincidentally, it always falls on my family Christmas day, but I made an effort, a special effort this time to get out there and take a look and see what it was all about. And I got home, I told my wife, I said, from here on out, we're not going to do the family thing. We're going to go out there and we're going to help out those kids, because there's just, it's so touching to see so many smiles out there. And it's just a great thing to do for our community. And I know this happens all over the place, but yeah, what an eye-opening experience. So really honored to be a part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Leesmeyer. Mayor Pro Tem August.
Just a quick note to add on to what Mr. Leesbeck and Councilwoman Sobek just said. I think one of our star performers here at the city was Mr. John Denver, Councilman John Denver, who was Santa Claus the entire day for the whole activity. So a special congratulations to Councilman Denver for that.
Mr. Denver?
And it was a miracle Santa didn't get sick. That always Santa gets sick is in bed for a month, and it didn't happen this time, so that was good.
You mean there's not a Santa? It's you? I'm
Santa has
disappointed.
a helper. Santa has help.
All right. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to, along with Mayor Lane from Murrieta, Mayor Nagar of Temecula, and former Mayor Steve Manos of Lake Elsinore, to present a mini State of the City presentation to the Women's Council of Realtors in the Southwest region. It was a fantastic event. It's kind of amazing how the four cities are aligned in terms of philosophy, but I think that has to do with the three up-and-coming city managers that we have in Menifee and Lake Elsinore and Temecula. Also, I've not had an opportunity to go to any regional boards or commissions recently since the last meeting because we're all dark during the holidays. However, I do have one announcement to make. After some much thought and searching, I have settled on my replacement for Councilwoman Sobek on the Menifee Planning Commission, and I would like to introduce to you tonight, and if you would please stand, please welcome Randy Madrid to the Menifee Planning Commission. Very grateful, Randy, that you stepped up. You'll be sworn in at the Planning Commission meeting on, I believe it's the 13th, is that right, Madam Clerk? And I look forward to your service, and your experience is going to benefit the residents in a very, very meaningful way. So deeply grateful that you said yes, and we look forward to your service. Thank you very much. All right. If there's no other updates or comments, we are on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion? Are there any modifications or changes to the minutes from December 16th? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. On to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on consent tonight?
No, there are no requests to speak.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Denver, second by Mr. Leesmeyer. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem August? Aye. Councilmember Leesmeyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Sobek?
Aye.
Councilmember Denver? And Mayor Mann?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The first is agenda item 11.1, declaring structures located at 23831 Kennedy Lane a public nuisance. Mr. Johnson, do we have a staff report?
We do, Mayor and members of the council. Our senior code enforcement official, Mr. Wayne Aguero, will have the balance of the item.
Mr. O'Gara.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much. Tonight before you is Resolution 16-493, which will be declaring the property located at 23831 Kennedy Lane a public nuisance. This property first came to the attention of code enforcement with the city in 2010. The property was brought to our attention by the lending institution at the time, who filed a form proving that this was a abandoned and foreclosed property and that they were taking all necessary steps to maintain and secure the property. Since that time, there have been over 11 separate code enforcement violation cases regarding this property, including graffiti, unpermitted occupancy or squatters, and non-performance of property maintenance. I will add that graffiti has been an open and ongoing problem with this location since day one. On June 29 last year of 2015, there was a fire that severely damaged the structural integrity of the walls and especially the roof structure. Due to that fire, the roof and the entire structure is in danger of collapse from the loss of integrity and the weight of the HVAC system, which is precariously mounted in the opening of the fire-damaged roof. Code enforcement has made multiple notifications to contact the owner, interested parties, and any and all lending institutions to immediately repair or demolish the dangerous structure. To date, we received no acknowledgement of intent to fix, repair, or maintain the structure. As a follow-up to the non-response to the city's request for the property owner, we mailed notices of intent to abate a dangerous building in accordance with the city's regulations. And again, to this date, we received no response from anybody. Since the structure continues to possess or pose a serious risk and danger to the health, safety, welfare of the community, we are requesting that the council tonight declare the structure located at 23831 Kennedy a public nuisance and order that the violations be abated by way of demolition and removal from the property. If you look at your monitors on the lower photo, you can see in the upper left-hand corner the HVAC system balancing on what is left of one of the roof trusses. I was by there this morning to verify that it's still in that condition. The property is boarded up, but the property is also accessible by anybody who wants to. So if they wanted to walk into the backside of the property, be ingenious and pull a board down to live inside there, they can. I was able, the day after the fire, to take a look at the structure. This is some of the damage caused by the fire. This one is looking through one of the bedrooms in a hallway, and so is the bottom photo. In the upper photo, you can see the charring of not only the engineered trusses, but also the roof sheeting. And the bottom photo is showing a hallway with insulation coming down, blue sky above.
Was arson suspected in this fire, or is this just something, not?
This was a squatter fire.
Ah,
It is believed to be, although there was nobody there at the time, indications were that it started from a candle or somebody else trying to stay warm. The reason that that was believed is because if you'll notice in the bottom photo, some of the boards that were there boarding up the structure had been removed and broken in. Some were done by the squatters or other individuals. Some were done by fire to gain access to extinguish the flames. The upper photo is the kitchen. A lot of the drywall pulled down to ensure that the fire was out. But again, it's charred through the timbers and on the roof sheeting.
Mayor Pro Tem August?
Just a quick question, sir. Now, there is a lender on the property, or there's nothing owed on the property?
Councilmember August, let me give you a quick update. We were contacted this afternoon by a law firm representing the lender. We actually sent out notices to them, and as a result of that, they contacted us at the 11th hour. At this point, they haven't made up their mind whether they're going to step up to the plate and take care of the demolition or rehabilitation of the property, but they're reviewing what their options are at this point. Our recommendation is to proceed with the public hearing. At the end of the public hearing, still declare it a public nuisance so that staff can move forward, and if there is any ability to negotiate with the property owner or the bank to be able to get them to demolish it. If not, staff will proceed with removing the structure and raising the building.
Mr. Melching first, and then Mr. Denver.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. McNee and I both had conversations in parallel with counsel for the lender today. And I would just add to what Mr. McNee said, that the counsel that I spoke to, after looking at these photos, acknowledged that this is a public health issue, that it is a nuisance, and that it needs to be abated. And the only question now is whether the city will abate it and then recover its costs of abatement through a lien proceeding, or whether we'll be able to work something out expeditiously with the lender so that the lender abates it directly and recovers its costs through the sale of the property.
Okay. Mr. Denver?
No, that was at the lien, we weren't, if we spend $5,000 on it, you lien the property for $5,000 plus costs, and you get it back when they sell the land.
That's correct.
Mr. O'Gara?
If I may, the desire for code enforcement in the city tonight is to adopt the resolution. Now, at any time between now and the resolution date where we, the city, may take action, the lender has the ability to go in and do their due diligence to take control of the structure, to demolish it, or to repair it within a timely manner. We are asking for adoption tonight so that in the event they fail to do that, we may take that action necessary to protect the public.
Okay, understand, and thank you for that clarification.
Sir.
Just curious, since 2010, this is January of 2016, other than yesterday or today, when was the last time we'd heard from an owner or a banker?
I would have to go back and check the code enforcement records. I've had email conversations with analysts from one of the bank institutions that said they would pass it on to their higher-ups and look at it. In repeated emails to them, they're still evaluating it and have not returned to me. So it's a hurry up and wait for them.
So it's been, was it in 2015? Was it in 2014, 2013?
The flyer was in 2015. There was probably 3 or 4 emails between June 15 and December. Before that, we have had instances where one bank or lending institution and their maintenance company would say that they owned it, would take care of it, and would actually post the property. I would contact them for additional work, and, oh, we don't have it anymore. It's now somebody else's. We sold it, or we don't know that we want to have it. So this, unfortunately, is a typical reaction to most of these lending institutions and their maintenance companies.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions from council to staff? Thank you, Mr. O'Gara, for
Thank you,
now.
sir.
I'll open up the public hearing at time 7:35. Madam Clerk, was this properly noticed, and have we received any correspondence with respect to this item?
This item was legally noticed, and we have not received any correspondence.
Thank you. Do we have any I'll call for public testimony on this. Do we have any speakers that wish to speak, or is there a representative from the bank here? I wish to speak. And please come to the microphone, state your name for the record and what your business is regarding this public
Thank you,
hearing.
Mayor, and Mr. Lesmeyer. We have contacted with each other before. My name is Will Cooley. I live directly behind this house. I'm the one who caused most of the phone calls to get the people out of there. A week before this place burnt down, the police were there. There was 10 of you, plus the helicopter, paramedics. They borrowed my ladder so they can first, go to the fence. They got in the fence, they surrounded the place, then they borrowed it again to tase the guy out of the attic. A week after that, I work out of town most of the time. My wife and kids, this is my primary concern. I have all kinds of photos of this house. I've been calling the police for too long, and it's not their civic duty to watch a negligent and unethical property management. Okay, and that's the thing. It's the ethics of the whole thing, which supersedes the law in real estate. So I just don't get what these guys are trying to do to hurry up and wait, hold on to something that they well could have gotten rid of. They've already cost the city enough money. Fire department, police, all kinds of other things. We just want it torn down. That's what I want. I want that thing gone. It's going to ruin our property value. Not a single person here would have this house in the back of their place. That's all there is to it. We would expedite something. And it's been years. Now I understand it's been since 2010. I've been there 3 years fighting this thing. Aquin won't answer the phone unless you have an account, unless you're making a payment. Those are the people who own it at the particular time. And it's, these guys, they work hard trying to keep that place closed. And, the neighbors are stealing the pavers. They're grabbing whatever they possibly can out of this house before it finally goes. Everybody knows what's going to go on with it. I know all the police in the neighborhood. In Quail Valley, it's just a little spot that everyone kind of forgets. Well, I'm here to make sure no one forgets it. Okay? It's a great community. I have a lot of, illegal immigrants or what have you. They don't want any trouble. They're not going to call the cops. I'm the voice for that neighborhood. And I want this place torn down. And these pictures were taken before the last round of boarding up was done. So I plead with you.
When did you move in, Mr. Cooley?
I moved in December 1st, 2012.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of council, Mr. Cooley? Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it, sir.
Sir, thank you, Council.
Do we have any other speakers?
There are no other speakers.
Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Is there any representation from the owner of the property here this evening? Hearing none, we close the public hearing at time 7:39. Council, what is your pleasure on this item? We're looking for an adoption of a resolution as presented by staff. Mr. Leesmeyer.
Well, first off, I wanted to thank Mr. Cooley for him bringing this to my attention. We have had conversations and gone back and forth, and I got up to speed rather quickly with staff. I do appreciate all the efforts by the department mitigating the issues out there. It is a big problem. It's a big eyesore, and unfortunately, the law is what it is. I wish we could have acted a lot quicker on this, but it's just you got to play the game, and that's where we are now. And this always seems to happen. The 11th hour, they stick their head up and they say, whoa, let me do what I want to do. So it sounds like we'll give them that chance, but unless anybody else has anything else to say, I'm in favor of proceeding forward with this.
Is that a motion to adopt?
I'll wait and see if anybody has anything else to say.
Is that a motion to adopt? Motion, is there a second?
There's a second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Mr. Denver. And I want to clarify, the adoption of this resolution will give staff what they need to, as presented by Mr. McNee and Mr. O'Gara, because I'm concerned, I would rather have the bank pay for the demolition than us. So does this give you the flexibility to do that negotiation?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Call the question, please.
Councilmember Leesmeyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Sobek?
Aye.
Councilmember Denver? Mayor Pro Tem August? Mayor Mann?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously.
Another first in the city of Menifee. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it. All right.
What do you mean?
Authorization of demolition thing.
Oh, okay. See, we've had nuisance abatements before.
We've had nuisance abatements, but this is the first authorization for demolition. Okay, agenda item 11.2, our second public hearing tonight, a city-initiated technical amendment to the La Piedra General Plan Amendment number 2015-049. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Bob Brady will have the balance of the item. I believe Tamara Harrison will give the report.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and member of the City Council. The item before you this evening, as indicated, is a clarification and a correction really to the general plan to reflect a change and a consistency between the zoning and our general plan that was adopted. And Tamara Harrison, our assistant planner, is the project manager on this. I'd ask her to review it with the City Council, then we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. General Plan Amendment 2015-049 is a city-initiated technical general plan amendment. The site is located south of La Piedra Road and east of Marietta Road and is a 9.85 acre site. The project proposes to amend the general plan land use designation from rural residential 1 acre minimum to rural residential 1/2 acre minimum. In 2004, the property owner submitted a general plan application, change of zone, and tentative tract map to Riverside County, proposing 1/2 acre minimum lot sizes and to subdivide the property into 15 residential lots. The Riverside County Board of Supervisors subsequently approved the proposal in 2007. The city's 2013 adoption of its general plan did not capture the change in the latest approval from the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. So in February 2015, the city initiated the technical amendment for the correction. Recognizing the correction would bring into consistency the site's general plan designation, change of zone, and the existing approved tentative map at the site. The Planning Commission adopted a resolution to the City Council recommending approval of GPA 2015-049. And with that, staff's recommendation is to introduce ordinance number 2016-189, approving general plan amendment number 2015-049, and schedule for second reading and adoption on January 20th, 2016. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of council to staff? Just want to, could you put the map back up there? I just want for my own bearings, this area is to the west of Evans Ranch Elementary.
Yes.
Right? It's on the north, it'd be on the south side of La Piedra.
Correct.
All right.
Evans Ranch
That's
Elementary.
Evans Ranch Elementary. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Hearing no other questions of staff, I'll open up the public hearing at time 7:44. Do we have any speakers on this side? Was this properly noticed, and have we received any correspondence on this item?
This item was legally noticed, and we do not have any correspondence.
Do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
Is there anybody wishing to speak on this item? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at time 7:45. Mr. Leesmeyer.
Yeah, I just wanted to verify that this is not being brought forward by any applicant or any property owner or anything like that.
Correct. It's an adjustment or correction that staff has initiated to bring consistency between the general plan and the zoning and what was previously approved under the general plan when the county adopted the plan. So it is consistent. We are supportive of the land use designation in the general plan.
So is there any, Mr. Melching, I'm being leery of gifts of public funds and those sort of things. You know, we have zoning consistency all the time, zone changes, things like that. Is there any sort of time clock that needs to run out so there's no perception of a gift of public funds by the city initiating a property change on somebody's individual property rather than as we should have done in the actual general plan?
No, there is no gift of public fund exposure here. In fact, the city, when it is acting in its legislative capacity and it is taking actions for the betterment of the city's land use planning, because it has a valid public purpose, there isn't an issue with regard to the increase in the value of the land, because the city's not actually giving any compensation. It may be creating value. That may in fact be true, but it's not giving money.
Well, I'm referring to, had a property owner actually come forward and gone through a general plan amendment process, they would have paid significant fees to go through that process. It's just a little sketchy when we're only doing this on one property on our own.
I understand that, but the need to do cleanup measures with regard to land use documentation is fairly routine. To my knowledge, it's never been characterized as a gift.
Okay.
Well, it's a good question. I'm glad you mentioned it, Councilmember Leesmeyer, but because it needed to be asked. And it leads me to remind everybody that we've already given direction to staff to clean up the underlying zoning inconsistencies with the general plan, and there are a lot. There are many. And as we go forward, these are going to come more frequent, I would imagine. And they won't be, in most circumstances, they won't be applicant initiated. They'll be initiated by us based upon direction we've given to your department. So, a good question. I appreciate you asking that. Are there any other questions? May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2016-189?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Leesmeyer.
Second?
Second by Councilwoman.
2016-189, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Menifee, California, approving General Plan Amendment Number 2015-049 to change the General Plan land use designation of APNs 360-040-040 and 360-040-041 from rural residential 1 acre minimum RR1 to rural residential 1/2 acre minimum RR 1/2, and schedule. This motion will also include scheduling for second reading and adoption on January 20th, 2016.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Call the roll on the introduction of the ordinance.
Councilmember Sobek?
Aye.
Councilmember Denver?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem August? Councilmember Leesmeyer?
Aye.
Mayor Mann?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, everybody. On to agenda item 11.1, express ban on marijuana cultivation and processing. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Bob Brady, your Community Development Director, has the balance of the item.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor and member of the City Council. The ordinance before you this evening, 2016-188, would be an ordinance adopting a new chapter to the city's municipal code that would pertain to the cultivation and processing of marijuana within the city, and it would be an express, that's proposed as an express prohibition of those activities. In 1996, the California voters did approve the Compassionate Use Act, and in 2003, the California legislature approved the medical marijuana program, and both of these actions allowed for the cultivation and use of medical marijuana or marijuana for medical purposes. However, it is important to point out that neither one of these laws required local government to allow the cultivation or processing of medical marijuana within its jurisdiction. And again, just as another point, under federal law, the use, possession, and cultivation of marijuana is prohibited, and no medical necessity exemptions exist. In October of 2015, Governor Brown did sign into law the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act, or the MMRSA, and this creates a state licensing system or process for a number of activities: cultivation, processing, manufacturing, possession, storage, laboratory testing, and so on, of medical marijuana and medical marijuana products. The regulations do establish the minimum standards. However, under this particular law, local governments do retain the ability to enact and enforce their own standards that are and could be more restrictive. Previously, the Menifee City Council did adopt two ordinances, ordinance number 2011-93 and 2013-128, which prohibited medical marijuana dispensaries and mobile dispensaries, which also included the delivery of marijuana or marijuana products to any location in the city. Currently, the Menifee Municipal Code does not have any regulations specifically regulating the cultivation and processing of marijuana. And if the state does, or if the city does not adopt any regulations, the state will then become the sole licensing authority for all cultivation permits in the city if the city does not adopt these regulations by March 1st of this year. And this item did go before the Planning Commission at several public hearings to consider the regulation of marijuana cultivation and processing. And at that time, and during those discussions, the Planning Commission did discuss recommending an express prohibition of any marijuana cultivation. However, the Commission did adopt a resolution on a 3-2 vote, which recommended allowing up to 8 plants to be cultivated on a property within an enclosed structure. And this resolution also did recommend the prohibition of any marijuana processing, which would include the use or preparation of marijuana byproducts. And I just wanted to point out again that this recommendation that the Planning Commission made was prior to the law being signed into by the governor in October of 2015. Through this process, as with any other code amendment, the staff did look at the California Environmental Quality Act with regards to the impacts that the amendment may have, and staff has determined that there is no impact under the CEQA requirements, and is recommending that the council do find it an exemption for further environmental review. So with that, the recommendation before you this evening from staff is to conduct a public hearing, find ordinance number 2016-188 exempt from further environmental review, and introduce first reading of council ordinance number 2016-188 imposing an express ban on marijuana cultivation and processing by establishing a new chapter 9.70, marijuana cultivation and processing, within the city's municipal code, and schedule for a second reading and adoption on January 20th, 2016. And before I conclude my presentation, I just wanted to clarify just a correction that was brought to staff's attention with regards to wording within the definition portion of the actual proposed code, and that would be under section 9.70.020 definitions. In the third line, the word should be plant rather than plan. A T was left off that word, so I just wanted to make that correction. That would be changed in the ordinance if adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Mayor Pro Tem, just a quick point of order. Mr. Melching, I think I know the answer, but I want to ask it. Councilwoman Sobek is not precluded from acting on this tonight based upon her service on the Planning Commission and a previous vote?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem August?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to direct a question to Mr. Melching. Just to give us a reference, a legal perspective, a little background on some legal reasons why it might be in the best interest of the city and in the best interest of time to bring before the council tonight the introduction of this ordinance. I'd like to follow that up with your opinion, or would there be any, if we should approve the ordinance and the ordinance should go into effect, or do you foresee any disadvantages respective to the city, respective to any known previous or current state or county laws? And finally, if you can remember this, should the voters in 2016 approve recreational marijuana use on the ballot in 2016, how would that impact our ordinance should it be approved tonight?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. If you'll indulge me, I'll take your second question first, which is whether there's any disadvantage to the city in terms of consistency with state law in terms of the city adopting this ordinance. And the answer is no. We, of course, reviewed this ordinance prior to it being presented to the City Council, and we're satisfied that not only is it consistent with state law, it's what's authorized by state law, which draws me back to your first question, which is why is this timely? Why is this happening? As Mr. Brady said in his staff report, at the end of the last legislative session, a new state legislation was adopted that talked about the modified regulatory schemes and upcoming state licensing for medical marijuana issues. It was a mistake, but nevertheless a reality in the law as it currently exists, that a March 1st deadline was created. And what the March 1st deadline did is it basically said the regulations that the city has in place as of March 1st of 2016, which is roughly 2 months from now, are the maximum restrictiveness of regulations that the city can then have. And so if a city wants to prohibit cultivation and it wants to prohibit processing, it better do so before March 1st. And because after March 1st, it's not going to have the power to do that anymore, absent a change in the law. I say that's a mistake in the legislation because it is a fact that right now the California legislature is trying to push through on an urgency basis cleanup legislation to remove that March 1st deadline. But we don't know whether it's going to pass or whether it's not going to pass, which leaves us in a position of having to deal with the law as it exists today, which creates this March 1st deadline and says after March 1st you can't have an outright prohibition on cultivation and processing. So what cities are doing up and down the state is they are, for better or for worse, making the decision to have an outright prohibition of cultivation and processing. And if that decision turns out to be too aggressive, and that some cultivation or some processing turns out to be warranted or wise, that's a decision that a city can always make after March 1st. But if it were to decide to allow some cultivation and some processing through a city regulatory process now and then decide after March 1st that it wanted an outright prohibition, that option would be cut off. So this is in some measure about keeping flexibility for the city. Obviously, I can't speak for the various policy considerations that the council may have in considering this, but from a purely logistic perspective, this is the most flexible thing you can do at this point. So we are fully, that explains why you're consistent with state law. In fact, this action is taken to be consistent with state law. The last question that you asked had to do with the impact of statewide initiatives. There are, by some measures, 18 proposed statewide initiatives which, to one degree or another, would legalize marijuana on a recreational basis or change how marijuana is utilized on a medical basis in the state right now. There's an effort to sort of winnow those down to a single initiative measure because there's concern that there'll be voter confusion if two or more pieces of proposed legislation end up on the ballot in November of 2016. If that is passed, and I can't tell you as I sit here today what that legislation will precisely look like, but if that is passed, that will be the law in the state of California. And if what is passed is inconsistent with the law in the city of Menifee per this ordinance or per your prior adopted ordinance, which dealt with dispensaries and mobile dispensaries, then the California state law will effectively trump the Menifee law. But I can't tell you how it will be superseded at this point in time because we don't know what will be adopted or if it will be adopted in November of 2016. And finally, and I promise to stop speaking, finally, on the question of what and if it will be adopted, to date, and I think this was mentioned in the staff report, the District of Columbia, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska have all adopted legalization of recreational marijuana use. I believe the city of the state of Ohio recently rejected a similar measure. So it's difficult to know one way or another how that comes out, and with voter confusion and all of that. So we shall see in November, but for today, hopefully I've answered your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Melching.
Mr. Denver.
I hope I already know the answers, but just to make sure, no one could ever bring up an issue of tax benefits to the city of Menifee, pro or a con on this ordinance, because we're not going to get any money on it anyway, no matter what we do, right?
That's right. Right now, we don't have any tax dog in this fight.
And the last issue is that with the new information in 16 election, not counting that, this ordinance we're about to vote on one way or another has nothing to do with changing any legal use or lack of use in the city. It has nothing to do with that.
No, it has to do only with the cultivation, and cultivation is a defined term in the ordinance, but which covers a lot of things, and the processing of marijuana. But the actual ingestion of marijuana isn't specifically dealt with in the ordinance.
When we speak of processing, do we mean personal processing, or do we mean commercial processing?
Personal and commercial. It's all processing.
I find it amazingly refreshing in an era where there's an increasing desire to centralize power in Sacramento that we've been given somewhat of a gift to actually have some local control over this issue, albeit with a timeline. And so in that regard, I'm thankful for the opportunity for us to decide in Menifee how we're going to handle this. And so I guess that's my one positive thing for Sacramento this year, and it's only January. Are there any other questions of council to staff? Hearing none, open the public hearing at time 8:01. Was this ordinance properly noticed, Madam Clerk, and have we received correspondence?
Yes, it was legally noticed, and we did receive a letter today that is in your red folders.
Okay.
What's the gist of the letter?
Let the record reflect that this was a letter received dated January 6 from a citizen in Menifee by the name of Shirley Vaughn, V-A-U-G-H-N. And it is a letter in favor of the ban for cultivation. Do we have any public speakers on this item tonight?
There are no requests to speak.
No requests to speak? Do we have anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Please come to the podium, sir, state your name, and share your thoughts.
How you doing, Council?
Good
My
evening.
name's Edward Jermo. I live in Menifee. And I just want a couple questions to make sure I understand correctly. It's already illegal for it to be delivered, any medical marijuana to be delivered into the city of Menifee. Is that correct?
Yes, in 2011, the council acted to ban brick and mortar medical marijuana dispensaries, and then in 2013, the council acted to ban mobile medical marijuana dispensaries in the city, plus the delivery thereof from those that may be operating outside of the city limits.
Okay, so essentially, as of right now, the only way that patients that need their medical marijuana, and there's a lot of elderly people in my part of Menifee that do need their medical marijuana, the only way they can have it is, if I'm understanding correctly, is if they have if they cultivate it at home, correct? Because they can't get it delivered, and they can't go to a dispensary unless they leave the city of Menifee. Is that correct?
If we allow it to be cultivated, yes, you would be correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have to go outside of the city, like on 74 or down to Temecula, where there's a couple of co-ops.
So,
or elsewhere outside of the city.
to clarify my question,
Or Paris.
if this passes, then they will have to leave the city limits to get their needed medical.
They will still have to leave the city because they're presently have to do that under the current municipal code.
All right, did I misunderstand? As of present, they're allowed 8 plants, is that correct?
No,
That's not the way I understood it?
no,
So as of right now, it's illegal anyway?
Correct.
To, okay, anyways, the point I want to make is that there are people that need it, and it doesn't kill people like pharmaceutical drugs, and it helps a lot of people. And in forcing some people to leave the city, I think it would be a good idea to allow people to cultivate. 8 plants is not enough to get rich. It's not enough. You're not going to be a drug dealer. You're going to have your supply, your medical marijuana, and that's how I feel about it.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Any other speakers on this item tonight? Come on up, sir. State your name.
My name is Anthony Rodriguez. I'm up for the ban. I don't want my neighbor being able to grow plants in his backyard and me smell it. So I'm proposing that they do the ban because, what it does is good neighborhoods, and then you have the people, the tweakers or whatever so-called they call them, coming through these neighborhoods to buy stuff. People that have usually 9 plants usually sell. That's a fact. And in a nice neighborhood, it's going to hurt the values of the property. It's going to bring unnecessary crime. Keep them on the outside of the city limits the way it is right now. So I'm up for the ban.
Thank you, sir. Any other persons wish to speak? Come forward. State your name.
Good evening. My name is Aisha Rogers, and I am for the ban also. I have children in the city, and it's a good city right now. I don't want my kids walking down the street on the way to In-N-Out or wherever they're driving and have access to marijuana. It's a known fact. Speaking from a sociological perspective, marijuana, it might be harmless to some, or some might need it for medical use, but it does create a motivational syndrome. It makes people not want to do anything with their lives. And I don't want my kids to grow up and think that this is okay to do nothing with your life and smoke weed all day. It's not normal. And I don't want my kids exposed to that, especially if we're raising them here in this city. I like the fact that we came in here and we prayed and we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's something wholesome about what we have here. Let's keep it that way.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come on up. If you want to speak, just go ahead and come on up to the podium as soon as the other speaker's done. State your name for the record, be heard.
My name is David Gray, and we can ask Bruce Jenner what's normal or what's not these days. The council is, they're broad-minded, they're wise, and, I think to put a ban on something when there are other opportunities, more like regulating, we're talking about growing in backyards versus, designating warehouses or potential, designated areas. It's coming. It's already here. It's going to be legal in California. It may not be this year. It will likely be this year, but if not, it will be soon. It does have an impact. It will have an impact on our community. 17,000 people a year die in this country from drug overdose. I am against the ban. 254 million opiate prescriptions are given out every year in this country. I think that an alternative that the citizens of this country and the state have asked for should be highly considered as a viable option. I know that right now, there's a ban on dispensaries. There are 54 delivery services servicing this community right now. Do you want to know why? Because you can't stop it. It's here. It's coming from all around. So, as this progresses and as the council, has that foresight, instead of maybe banning, maybe say, hey, what do we have to do to set the standard, right? To be a community that says, we want to be able to provide medicine to people who need it, and how are we going to do it? How are we going to keep it safe? How are we going to do it in a way that makes us look like, we care about the citizens who need it, and there are citizens who need it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak? Come on up.
Good evening, Craig Simon, and I would just like to go ahead and address a few things I've heard discussed this evening so far. I am a entrepreneur, and I'm actually starting a business. I have built and developed sensors, internet gardening sensors designed for growing cannabis. I built the sensors in deference to people who've spoken here already. on my own, developed and built a cloud service on that, and I am actually selling, or starting to sell this, to growers around the world to go ahead and to get their gardens on the internet. Please realize what you're actually looking at doing if you invoke a ban is not only are you going to be going ahead and ending businesses that are going to be growing or processing cannabis, but you're also going to be going ahead and telling me, companies like myself, that we're not welcome in Menifee either, because I will need to grow in order to be able to go ahead and test my hardware and my software. So not only are you cutting out these types of businesses, you're also cutting out other businesses that cater to the growing cannabis industry. And that's the point that I would like to make this evening. Thank you.
Do you live in Menifee? Where's your business at? Do you?
I do, yes.
Have we taxed your business net? I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Never mind. I'm
I'm
trying to liven it up a little bit, you know?
At this point, the state of California has my incorporation documents, so
Okay,
we're incorporating as we speak, yes.
All right, and just for the record, you're against the ban?
I am.
Okay,
I
thank
am.
you. Next speaker, please.
My name's Luann Nicosia, and I just wanted to give my opinion on this. I am for the ban. My background is I worked for LA County as a police dispatcher for 2 years and in the city of Hemet for 8 years. So I have a little background in how things work with, marijuana and how it affects the city. And I just want to thank the city council here, at least the people who live in Menifee. I mean, there's many cities to choose from. But I love that it's a small town. We're trying to keep it safe. It does make a difference when you, as low as they feel that the marijuana is on the totem pole of drugs, it does make a difference. It brings, trust me, I answered 911 10 hours a day in Hemet. It does make a difference, and I thank you. I know eventually things will change, but I love the small town, honorable, the way that they try and keep it here. And I am a real estate agent now. And it does affect neighborhoods, and it does affect house values. It does. So from the police perspective and from real estate, I'm sure John Denver knows what I'm talking about. I just appreciate you at least trying to keep the city of Menifee small town, rural, kind of like a back east, nice family-oriented community. And there's plenty of towns around us where if people do need it medically, my heart goes out to them, but they're very close. It's not like you have to go more than a couple miles, but thank you. I am for the ban. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much for speaking. Next speaker. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
My name's Troy Helton, and I am business owner, multiple property owners in the city of Menifee. Just hearing this tonight, I just wanted to bring a few things up because I respect everybody's opinion on it. Super open-minded to new stuff, closures, whatever you want to call it. And Luann made a good point of, maybe it does do some things, and she was a 911 operator. But there's a certain thing I want to point out in the city of Menifee, and that's that we can leave this building right now, and there's an officer standing by me to go ahead and back this up. And we go right over there to the Circle K parking lot, okay? And I don't drink alcohol, and I haven't drank alcohol in years. And we can watch people walk into this liquor store and the 20 and 30 liquor stores that are in this city, including the one that's on Bundy Canyon. I live on Bundy Canyon. The accidents that occur on Bundy Canyon and the deaths that have occurred on Bundy Canyon since I've lived there have never one time been by a sheriff telling me that the guy was smoking weed and he got in a head-on collision. Every time there's been an accident, it's because of a liquor-involved accident. So I have kids. I got 3 kids. I live on a horse ranch. There's no way I'd be growing weed in my backyard. I don't want my neighbor to where my kids can see it in their backyard. But you can go into any liquor store or any one of these restaurants that you guys receive tax income from and get completely blasted, jump into your car, and drive down our city streets at any given time, but somebody can't get medical marijuana? Let's think about this, people. There is more stuff with alcohol that goes on. And the 911 calls that you got at your, come on.
Mr. Helton, address the council, please.
I'm addressing everybody.
You address the council.
It's absolutely, I think there should be regulation in everything, especially when it comes to alcohol, and there's zero regulation. We have cop checkpoints, police checkpoints that do DUI checkpoints and things like that. Do you see the guys that are getting caught for smoking weed at these DUI checkpoints? Or do you see the people who either have hardcore drugs and have been drinking down our streets and taking out our kids and our families from alcohol that we all get tax revenue on? The greatest thing I heard tonight was Mr. John Denver asking if there was any tax revenue that was going to occur through the city through marijuana. I'm a business owner. I understand taxes. I understand how cities work, how they run. And they have to be taxed and they have to be regulated and income has to come into the city. Income comes in by the hundreds of thousands through alcohol, and that's why it's allowed. So we all go blind-eyed and just say, do whatever you want with alcohol because we all make money on it, and that's not addressed on the deaths that occur on our highways, but it's not okay for a little bit of weed. And so I'm not saying I oppose anything you guys say or say whatever. I'm saying...
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
So just for the record, you're opposed to the ban?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other speakers?
Hi, my name is Jesus Gonzalez. I live in Menifee, and I'm a Christian. And just I'm against the ban, and my wife has lupus. Sorry, I get emotional. Rheumatoid arthritis and anxiety, and she's terrified of taking any CBD oils, anything that's gonna help her because of this, because people are just pretty much against this, and they're so afraid of it, but it's doing so much good to the medical, and for her to have to leave, I have 3 children, and yes, like they're saying, I wouldn't want to grow it in my house, but if it's justified for somebody to grow it so that she can get it locally, and so it can treat her, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wish to speak tonight? Come on up.
Hi, I'm a little nervous. My name is Diane Donahue, and I would be for the ban, except that a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And after I spoke to a very close friend of mine who's a physician at UCLA, he said to me, you need to take marijuana. I'm not a good drinker, let alone a smoker. So for me, it wasn't really an option. But after I went through a double mastectomy and hell, I realized that people really use marijuana medicinally. It isn't just for the potheads. Just like alcohol, which most of you partake in, you're not alcoholics. But we need to really understand what this drug actually does. If I was standing up here from a pharmaceutical company and told you the dangers and the 250,000 people that die each year from all kinds of medicine. I was in medicine for 20 years. In the laboratory, I watched people die from medicines, pharmaceuticals. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. But I know that there are serious repercussions for people to not be able to get this drug that God created, not some pharmaceutical company. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, very good. Thank you very much, everybody, for your input. The public hearing is closed at time 8:18. Council discussion. Where are we at on this item recommended by staff? First of all, do we have to have 2 separate motions on the finding of the exemption from further environmental review, or is that part of the motion for the ordinance? One motion. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Oh, might as well try this. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you got anything?
Yeah, I really didn't want to speak on this, and I'm not an expert on marijuana, but I'm kind of an expert in taking the temperature of the people in my community, and it's a senior district over on the west side. of 22,000 people, and so on and so forth. I can understand your people's feelings. I didn't quite get a feeling of how many people that spoke tonight were from the city of Menifee. I can tell you that I have taken a survey. I have a rather large email list of people in my community, and except for one person, the overriding majority, as I said, except for one person, want me to support the ban on marijuana. I take a lot of calls, and I'm not saying all the calls, police calls I take in the city of Menifee are because of marijuana, but I take a lot of substance abuse calls from the people in the city of Menifee. And again, I'm not saying they're related to marijuana. I've had calls related to marijuana, trees, and things like that from people in my community. So the vote I make tonight is probably more than being against you, is to represent the people in my community. So that's my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. August. Ms. Sobek?
Well, I appreciate all of you coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts and opinions with us. I, too, represent the people and the 3rd District, and I will let you know that most of the people that I talk to, they say they love Menifee because of the family environment. It's a safe place to raise their children. I was on the Planning Commission when this came before us, and we had a representative from the DA's office speak to us. And he gave us a lot of information that was very surprising, that if you feed one plant properly, it can grow to 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide, and you can make over $10,000 off of that one plant. Really? And that's from the DA's office. And
Don't get any ideas.
He also shared with us that in Riverside County, they are having problems with the drug cartel coming in, and also an Asian gang who is renting homes and turning the homes into grow houses and then ruining those homes. And so the decision I make tonight will be also in the best interest of the families that live here.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Leesmeyer.
Yeah, I'll go on record and agree with what these two are saying, with one exception. There have been, at least over the last couple of years, the takedowns of very, very large grows in Quail Valley in my district. 3 in one summer and 1 in another one, a stone's throw away from a church. They must have had 500 plants. I've heard the same things that Ms. Sobek has heard about the cartels coming in, and they, if it's a resident cultivating that kind of quantity, the cartels are threatened by that, and they come in at night, shoot up the house, take the plants, and they're gone. So I'm not saying I'm for an outright ban, but what the Planning Commission recommended here, they recommended that up to 8 plants could be cultivated, and that's what I'm in favor of. We still have a lot of people that are sick. I believe that there probably are some benefits to it. It's not totally proven, but I think we need to express some latitude. And as Mr. Melching said earlier, if we don't start something now, we can't come back after March and fix it. So we need to draw the line in the sand now.
Just to make sure, you're in favor of up to 8 plants now, or the ban now, and bring back for up to 8 plants later?
If correct me if I'm wrong, the Planning Commission's recommendation was up to 8 plants.
Okay.
And I'm in favor of upholding the Planning Commission's
And
decision.
my understanding from the city attorney's presentation and briefing was that if we don't act now, if we authorize X number of plants tonight, we'll never be able to come back and capture that and make it more restrictive after March 1st. Is that correct?
That's correct under the current law.
Okay. Mr. Denver.
I'm not sure everybody understands that what we're about to vote tonight is to ban it, period. No 8 plants, no anything. We're not taking the Planning Commission's recommendation. But what I want to say is that I think that what's been said here in the audience has a couple of very profound comments. I think we can do almost anything we want, and I think in a year and a half, we will have a different law in the city of Menifee as well as the state of California. I will bet money on that. And so I think it doesn't matter a great deal what we do here tonight.
Yeah, and John, just to comment on what you said earlier about the taxing of it, there's definitely something to be said about that. You talk about if a property's got 500 plants and they're growing those plants, they're cutting those plants, they're selling them to a collective. There's a sale right there. Okay, there's tax benefits there. There's tremendous amount of revenue that a city could make to handle the crime and things like that. But an outright ban, it limits those people that are at their home, maybe stuck and have complications or they can't get out and take care of themselves. But 8 plants isn't going to make somebody a millionaire. Isn't going to make them a drug dealer. It's just going to take care of their own personal needs. That's what I'm looking at.
Tonight's vote has nothing to do with taxes.
I understand.
We're not going to get taxes if we vote yes. We're not going to get taxes if we vote no.
Right.
We're not going to get taxes. And 8 plants, no plants, 4 plants, 1,000 plants, we're not going to get any taxes. So I don't think that's the issue.
Okay. I too appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I also have had substantial input on this heading into this night, both from residents, families, law enforcement, other cities, other council members. And I think that the opportunity here for me, if this council or a future council, notwithstanding a statewide proposition in 2016 that may or may not get approved by the voters up and down the state, if we ban it tonight, it doesn't mean that we can't, or a subsequent council down the road can't change that in the municipal code. But I think that we have an opportunity here tonight to meet a deadline under the law. Otherwise, we'll never, ever be able to get it to a zero cultivation. So based upon all the input that I've received, both here tonight and elsewhere, I am going to support the ban as recommended by staff and, more importantly, as recommended by law enforcement. I take their opinions to heart, and I really appreciate those who called me on that about this issue. And in doing so, we are not inconsistent with what this council has already done, both in 2011 and in 2013 by banning brick and mortar dispensaries, banning mobile dispensaries. This just follows suit with that, and I'm in favor of the ban tonight. Is there any other discussion amongst the council?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So the planning commission's recommendation of allowing up to 8 plants is not part of the current planned adoption.
It is not as presented, no.
Okay.
But also on that planning commission, we have to look at that. That was a 3-2 vote that was barely passed to allow that.
It's pass or fail. I mean, it's to be
Right,
looked at.
so
Is there any other discussion amongst the council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 2016-188, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Menifee, California, finding that the municipal code amendment is exempt from environmental review and imposing an express ban on marijuana cultivation and processing by amending the Menifee Municipal Code with the adoption of Chapter 9.70, marijuana cultivation and processing. And the motion will include scheduling for second reading and adoption on January 20th, 2016.
Very well, thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 2016-188?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Councilwoman Sobek. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Denver? Aye. Mayor Pro Tem August?
Aye.
Councilmember Leesmeyer?
No.
Councilmember Sobek?
Aye.
Mayor Mann?
Aye.
That motion passes 4-1 with Councilmember Leesmeyer voting no.
Thank you all very much for the discussion and the thorough staff report and everybody's comments. Well done. We have no discussion items on the agenda tonight, which brings us to city attorney reports.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Melching. Mr. Johnson, city manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. 3 items we'll be bringing back on February 3rd to clean up some of our future agenda items. We'll look at and give a report on the distinguished person idea that Ms. Sobek was coming up with, the shipping containers for the commercial, and a discussion on public safety and traffic commission, just to name 3 for future titles that we're bringing back. That's all I have tonight.
Very well. So the next meeting is January 20th, and Mayor Pro Tem August will be chairing that meeting. And we stand adjourned until then. Thank you, everybody.
You better